morning to all of you joining us today for this new Cisco Partner Interactive webinar on Cisco Hybrid Mesh Firewall. Before we start the session, I want to remind you that the session will be recorded and the PDF material together with the recording will be shared with you in the upcoming days on our PIW Sales Connect Hub. The link of this hub will be posted in the chat, and you will find there past recordings and upcoming sessions and events that you can register for. And if you have any question or comments to our presenter of today, we please ask you to use the Q&A panel on your right, and we will answer to your questions during the presentation using the Q&A or at the end of the session verbally if any time is remaining. So thank you very much. I will start the recording and I will hand over to our presenter of today. Łukasz, over to you. Thank you.
This meeting is being recorded.
Thank you. Welcome everyone in the Cisco Hybrid Mesh Firewall sessions for today. One of the newcomers to my team, Torsten Kemps, is with me today. Torsten is a senior PM joining my team responsible for the hardware firewalls. He will be moderating the session today and he will be already answering some of your questions. And as always, we are going to stop by the end of the session and try to answer all of the pending questions as well. So please ask those questions, ask for clarifications, and stop me if you see something going completely off rails. Now let's move to the actual content. One second, I'm trying to fight with the interface. So the topic for today, the hybrid mesh firewalling, is a concept we as a Cisco started already a couple of years ago. And some of you that were attending the Partner Interactive webinars may remember that about 2-3 years ago, we started to say we no longer care about the specific firewall. We will be working with all kind of different firewalls, and therefore we kind of came up with the concept of firewalling, right? And we started to shift the attention, our own, and of course tried to also influence your attention to say that sure, you can have all kind of physical, all kind of virtual firewalls, but in the end, probably the proliferation of the edge, however you define the edge, of course, proliferation of the edge protections means that probably we need to come up with a completely new term to basically clarify what exactly we are talking about when we are talking about firewalling. And that's, surprise, surprise, about a year later, we came up with Gartner as part of the discussions about the architectures of tomorrow and the evolution of also the infrastructure architectures like SD-WAN. We came up with the concept of hybrid mesh firewalls. The hybrid means simply that the form factor is fully flexible. And the mesh means that you deploy your security policy just once. So independently of what is happening within the environment and what exact devices you have at your own disposal, in the end, you should be able to clarify your policy in some kind of centralized system and then deploy the policy independently if you are deploying the policy to your virtual-only firewalls or maybe to hardware-only firewalls or maybe to hardware, virtual, cloud, and some other specific security controls. So I'm glad to say that over the last 2 to 3 years, we've been actually working at realizing this dream. And to some extent, this is already something that is available today. And I will cover this in a moment. So if we are saying, or if we are talking about hybrid mesh firewalling, we are basically, from Cisco perspective, we are talking about the architecture that is grounded in a system called Security Cloud Control. This is the cloud-based system that allows you to define single policy and then deploy this policy across all of different managed and supported nodes. So as you can see from our North Star definition that we kind of constantly repeat, so since we started to talk about the firewalling, we would like like to make sure that the customer is protected no matter what kind of enforcement devices are at our disposal. And of course, some enforcement points are not going to be able to classify specific applications, but they may, for example, do some layer 3, layer 4 filtering. And therefore, from that perspective, they are also useful because they are also contributing to the overall increase in security awareness and security control. Now, since then, and especially throughout this specific year that we are slowly ending, we went through a string of innovation across the entire portfolio within security. And despite the fact that on this slide, you can see a lot of new names potentially, if you haven't really worked with some of those products, you should at least start reading about them on cisco.com. But despite the fact that there are a couple of new names and new software releases or hardware releases across the board, we are also relentlessly trying to simplify the overall architecture. And that's why when I said basically there is one system to manage everything, which is called Security Cloud, or in the specific sense of network security, Security Cloud Control, that's exactly how we envision in future you actually working in environments that are highly secure. You will basically use Security Cloud to define those policies, integrate with the infrastructure controls, and then make sure that whatever policy is deployed is actually deployed on the devices wherever in the infrastructure those control points have natural sense, right? From the perspective of the traffic flow, from the perspective of the users moving around. And on the slide, you can see a bunch of new hardware platforms. You can see also software releases for the software and hybrid platforms like Secure Workload. There is also a lot of things happening and a lot of innovation happening in the XDR space, as well as probably what is the most often asked questions, how Cisco looks like at the integration between the traditional networking, routing, and switching and platforms that are cloud-based, naturally cloud-based, like Meraki, with the security story. That's again security cloud, right? This is the platform that we believe is the platform that actually allows you to manage security. And even if the infrastructure elements like Catalyst Center, for example, use their own capabilities to steer and to control the devices, we are still going to use horizontal integrations with Security Cloud to make sure that the security policy deployed across all of those platforms is basically the same. Some of the new capabilities that we launched, announced, and right now are working on are, for example, Hypershield, that was announced 2 years ago, and since then launched the Cisco Nexus Hypershield switch, and it's coming out as a container-based or eBPF-based security solution for your Linux hosts. Or AI Defense, which is the new capability to not only check how users within the company are using AI tools, but at the same time to actually protect your own models, right, and make sure that you can actually be relatively sure that the model cannot really be penetrated by all kinds of threat actors, or even by some clueless use of the existing tools, and basically try amateurish attempts to penetration test the model itself that the user within the company you are deploying your solution to is actually using. Outside of that, I would say probably like half of the focus right now related to the security innovation and hybrid mesh firewalling is in the space of identity. So you will see a lot of announcements in the upcoming Cisco Live in Amsterdam in February next year. But you already probably know from the Partner Summit and from all of the announcements that we are also working very, very hard to unify the identity space. So again, the identity is also controlled and managed in one place, not in a number of different distributed form factors and management platforms. Coming back to the hybrid mesh firewall story, you probably already know at least the basics, right? You know that we are shipping hardware firewalls, we are shipping virtual firewalls. Those virtual firewalls can be deployed in the private cloud. They can be deployed in the public cloud, and we have dedicated cloud form factors. We started to extend the hybrid mesh firewall story with the smart switches. We added the firewall as a service. We also added eBPF-based runtime protections, and this is as part of the existing Cisco Secure Workload capability, as well as the acquisition we did for Isovalent, which basically brings a very strong and market-leading component into the overall application security part. And together with smart switches, the Isovalent is being marketed under the name of the HyperShield. And we will continue to extend the capabilities to integrate with the existing frameworks. So the obvious two frameworks that we integrate as part of the hybrid mesh firewall is the software-defined access, Cisco SDA, and Cisco ACI, application-centric infrastructure. And for those frameworks, we have more and more integrations coming in directly from Security Cloud Control or from some on-premises integrations like FMC integrating again horizontally with the frameworks. But we are also bringing third-party firewalls into hybrid mesh firewall, and this is probably makes us a leader in this space because no other vendor today can offer native integration with the layer 3, layer 4 policies between whatever control platform they are using to manage the policies and third-party firewalls, like, for example, our firewalls. And that's the dream, right? So the dream is that when you are using Security Cloud Control, you can define your policy, and this policy is then translated on the fly to the language and to the APIs that are specific to the enforcement device. And because we are doing all of that, we are starting to get a lot of good recognition across a number of different analysts. So IDC is already positioning us as a leader. Gartner already started to say that Cisco is really doing something that is basically visionary. It's all about being able to still deliver that. And of course, the way the Gartner time-wise is set up is we are releasing our software right now, typically in the fall. They are doing the interviews in the beginning of the calendar year, and therefore we were misaligned with the expectations from the Gartner analysts. We were able to demo some of the capabilities, but we couldn't really say that they are already shipping, right? Or they will be shipping within a month. And that's why hopefully you see us improving over the next revision of the hybrid mesh firewall. But just for the fact that Gartner is no longer doing SD-WAN Magic Quadrant, they will be only doing hybrid mesh firewalls. That shows you that the market is moving and the analysts are also moving. And finally, we get recognition from the customers. And this is probably the most important piece, because analysts are doing this for a living while customers are operating those networks and actually believe in our solution and believe in our security of our solution to secure their own businesses, and which is probably the most important thing for them. And we are, of course, always helpful for your help as our partners in driving the message home. Now, I said Cisco is the only vendor that actually offers the third-party management, and this is actually what we are already shipping. So as a part of Security Cloud Control, we integrated a mesh policy engine that I will show you in the next slide. And this is the current capability of the mesh policy engine. So outside of defining the policies for Cisco devices, meaning Cisco firewalls and Cisco routers, we can also create, change, and modify the layer 3 and layer 4 policies for Palo Alto firewalls, Fortinet firewalls, and Juniper firewalls, with some others potentially on a to-do list. And let me be very specific about what potentially we can do, right? What we can do is modify or create new layer 3, layer 4 entries. We cannot really modify the application layer definitions, because this is something that is, every vendor is doing this in a very specific manner. There is no standardization, and the APIs responsible for that are really lacking in terms of how exactly they are able to control that. But from the layer 3, layer 4 perspective, when we are looking at use cases like segmentation or edge protection, this is a very interesting capability. Also, we do understand those policies independently if they are layer 3, layer 4, or layer 5 to layer 7, which means that if you decide to modify the policies and everything you are defining is just the third-party firewall, security cloud control or mesh policy engine responsible for actually creating those entries will understand that the ordering is important, right? That the specific flow of the rules is important, and therefore it will try to make sure that whatever policy or however policy is being created or modified, it will actually make sense, right? And it will not break any security flow. And that's probably the most important part where we don't really want to deploy in a greenfield, because in most of the cases you will not have the freedom of working in a greenfield deployment. You will be typically working in a brownfield deployment where you already have a lot of existing configurations, and basically, like always with firewalls, everybody is literally scared, too scared to touch those rules. So for that kind of capabilities, I would encourage you to test Mesh Policy Engine and see how exactly this is going to work for your customer or for any kind of lab environment that you may have. Another change that we are also doing as part of innovation with the hybrid mesh firewall is that right now the multi-cloud defense, the cloud native control capability that we have for our firewalls, right now is also able to deploy virtualized FTDs. Before that, it was able to deploy multi-cloud defense gateways. Right now, it can also deploy fully fledged next-generation firewall, along with all of the policies, along with all of the orchestration, which is additional plus for those of you that are looking to deploy full firewall or full Cisco firewall into the cloud of choice. And what is potentially also interesting is that we are right now working on slimming down the FTDV, because as some of you already know, the smallest instance size for the virtual FTD right now requires 4 virtual CPU cores. And we are bringing this down to 2, and maybe in future even to 1 virtual core, which potentially will make it way more agile in terms of deployment across the clouds. The next innovation that is going to be available with the 10.0 release, and 10.0 release is going to literally be available in about 2 weeks, so in the beginning of December, for all of your existing devices and physical and virtual, is going to be ability to transport SGT tags as part of the IPsec SD-WAN tunnels when your edge devices are Cisco Secure firewalls. So not only for the last couple of releases, we've been extending the coverage and the capabilities of the Cisco Secure firewall-based SD-WAN architecture, kind of, closing the gap of features versus our traditional routers. We are actually making sure that the architecture itself makes sense, right? Some of you already deployed TrustSec-based segmentation across your customer deployments, and you were asking questions about how we can do end-to-end segmentation in the SD-WAN as well, and how we can transport the tags in line with the data plane, with the packets themselves. So far, for the WAN deployments, we've been limited to basically cooperate as part of the SXP architecture, so software control plane architecture that allowed us to announce the tagging for the wide area network. Right now, or starting with 10.0, we will also be able to do inline tagging as part of the IPsec tunnels and the connectivity exchange, which should probably help you run your environments in more unified manner. At the same time, as I said in the beginning, if you have existing deployments already being controlled by Cisco Catalyst Center, you will be able to integrate them with the security cloud control at the policy level, and that will allow you to basically define the same security policy across those two systems managing your deployment. The next capability as part of the hybrid mesh firewalling started or premiered in 7.7. This is the hybrid private access, which basically frees the user or frees you as somebody that is managing the deployment for a customer from thinking how exactly I'm going to terminate the sessions. Once the user has privileges to connect using browser or using the client, they can connect both to the firewall or to the cloud service or to both of the basically destinations or to both proxies. And Cisco Secure Firewall can basically act as a zero trust proxy, including enforcement of any policies and making sure that before a user can access a specific application, the user access is going to be verified through existing policy that may be defined in the security cloud control or integrated within the security access. And that basically means that, again, we are kind of delivering on the SASE dream, where you don't really care where the user is, you do care which resources user is trying to access, right? And from what kind of device. Now, the journey started with 7.7. As I said, this is the first release that has the capability to deliver this on a Cisco Secure Firewall. In the 10.0, the software release that is going to be available in 2 weeks, we are extending this capability, hardening it, making sure it's more scalable, and actually has more capabilities to control the flows and to make sure that whether you are configuring this from the secure access side of the house or maybe from the security cloud control side, you have the same controls and the same granular capabilities. The next capability is integration with AI Defense. I already told you that we have a dedicated tool that is called AI Defense, and AI Defense can actually both secure the how your clients connect to the internet and use AI models, but also how your own models are being protected. Now, with the firewall, especially with the virtual firewall, we are able to actually control what kind of connections you are making, define those guardrails that can be used then to control whatever is happening with your users accessing everything, basically, that seems to be some kind of a AI engine. And therefore, your users are also protected from potential exploitation as part of some kind of broken or backdoored AI model. And this is right now very, very important, as basically everybody is trying to use those tools. Some companies are also embedding the existing AI models into the tools we've been shipping for the last couple of years, and therefore sometimes user doesn't even know that it is interfacing with some kind of a model that potentially can be backdoored, and then it can create some kind of, problems, right? For example, suddenly it has access to the production data or live system, and then as a part of modern concept of working with agents, suddenly starts to do something really, really malicious. There are already some documented situations where the operators of the cloud services are documenting the way their defenses were broken or exploited as part of either actor state or state actor type of attack, or basically some motivated type of a hacker that was able to gain access and then potentially compromise some of the defenses. So with dedicated tools like AI Defense and integration with our virtual firewalls, you should be in a safe place. We are also extending the existing capabilities of the tools like Secure Workload. We have a long history with Secure Workload integration and FMC or CSDAC, Cisco Secure Dynamic Attribute Control with the on-premise FMC. And we are extending this again in 10.0, adding some new capabilities. Secure Workload is as close as possible to the actual workload, which is the application, and therefore it provides your firewalls with the most granular, detailed view of how the application behaves and basically how and where it is deployed. Now, if you couple this with the firewall or with the firewall controls, you don't really need to deploy constantly a new policy across your firewalls, because security or secure workload will continue to feed the latest definition of what traffic is permitted in this network to your firewalls through the FMC and through the integration thanks to the CSDAC. There is a link at the bottom of the slide, which points you to the TME site, or Technical Marketing Engineer site, and there is a longer white paper that explains in details what kind of elements are being passed through the devices, and potentially what are also the best practices when you are deploying that kind of integration. As you know, secure workload recently got also eBPF capabilities, and therefore it is a very, very powerful system that can control your applications. We are also extending the ACI integration. Some of you already worked with the older release of the application that allowed FMC to integrate with APIC. With 7.7 and then with 10.0 we are releasing a new Cisco ACI integration application, and again it is more dynamic, more capable, and brings a lot of additional capabilities to your tool set if you are interested in managing that kind of secure environment with the help of the firewalls. There are more integration options, and typically when you are working with ACI you are thinking about scale, and for that we still have ability to cluster our firewalls and potentially use them as the elements, security elements, integrated through layer 2 or integrated through layer 3 recently with a clustering mode, which allows you again gives you some additional flexibility in terms of how exactly you are going to deploy your hybrid mesh firewalls. And the latest and greatest, which probably is something that some of you already have heard, which is the AIOps for the firewalls. This is the new capability that we are extending as part of the machine learning models that would be working in the cloud, in the Cisco operated cloud, and then work on your data to make sure that you can natively process whatever is happening on your firewalls. And let me be clear, we are not really looking about giving you yet another dashboard. We are actually thinking and focusing very much on AIOps giving you actionable callouts, so you can immediately jump into action. And if something is off or something requires your urgent attention, you can potentially, through like literally 2 or 3 clicks, solve it to remain in compliance, whatever compliance means for any given operation. So it's not about adding new dashboards, and it's not necessarily all about just having yet another chatbot interface. It's more about actually analyzing the information aggregated from multiple sources of information and then showing you something that you can immediately jump to. Now, that's how one of the potential interfaces looks like. So we are not really giving you a dashboard. We are giving you a set of actionable insights into what is going on in your environment. And then potentially by just clicking the assessment, upgrade plan, or specific devices in the map itself, you can actually start solving the security problems or identified risks, right? And maybe everything you will do or everything the user will do is basically accept the fact that there is increased risk of doing something because of some other changes. But on the other end, in most of the cases, this is the easiest way to actually quickly adjust the either configuration of the sensors or configuration of the entire infrastructure. Now, you saw a lot of different use cases that are already available in AIOps. Let me show you just one, which is the software upgrade planner. This is basically self-inflicted wound, basically, as you may say, because we made the overall upgrade process pretty complex. We did improve the upgrade process itself over the last couple of releases, and hopefully we made it more stable and predictable. But what AIOps is delivering here is basically the full-fledged upgrade planner. And as you can see on this screen, it actually shows you the whole path you should actually proceed with with if you are looking to get to the specific outcome. And this is how we typically see our customers asking us to guide them, right? So they are saying, hey, if my requirements are not necessarily to be on the latest and greatest software release that Cisco is shipping, but actually be on a release that doesn't really have any known vulnerabilities and is fixing 1, 2, or 5 different bugs that I do care about, or I did care about for the last because of the last troubleshooting sessions, then the upgrade planner is the natural tool to actually use. And by default, it is working constantly in the background, preparing you all kind of different migration scenarios, depending on what kind of hardware you have, what kind of virtual form factors you have, depending on what kind of identified problems you may have in your deployment, and then drafting those scenarios. And then it's up to you to basically decide which scenario you want to follow. Interesting part of the software upgrade planner is that we are also going to have this as part of the on-premise solution without the need to rely on the cloud. Most of the AI ops capabilities require cloud engine because the processing happens in the cloud through the distributed machine learning processing. But Upgrade Planner can work also in a kind of air-gapped mode, or basically separated from the cloud service. And this is the area that we are right now considering for the next releases within the 10.0 train. And at some point in time, you may actually see Upgrade Planner as part of your normal FMC on-premise management, because it doesn't really require any specific machine learning engine. It just requires access to data. And the access to data about the updates is distributed just like the software upgrades or signature updates are being distributed. And now, cream de la cream, and what my team is doing is shipping new platforms or building new hardware and shipping it with the latest versions of exciting software. So as you probably already have heard, since the last Cisco Live, we did announce 2 new additions this year to the whole portfolio. We did basically refresh entire portfolio. We did launch 1200, 3100, 4200, and right now, by December timeframe this year, we are actually launching the 220 as the first model in the 200 series, and we are also launching 6100 series, which is the high-end data center carrier class device. And again, this is the entire series that will initially have 2 models, 6160, 6170. Outside of that, as you can see on the right side of the screen, we have full portfolio of virtual form factors, and as I said a couple of minutes ago, they are also being modified to grow in scale. There is also going to be FTD unlimited version, which will rely only on the amount of resources, or CPU resources and memory you will allocate to them. But there is also going to be smaller, or there are going to be smaller instances of FTD, allowing you to deploy in resource-constrained scenarios. Let's look at the 220. This is the first model in its product series. We are also planning some other models that are going to be faster and also equipped with more interfaces, including cellular interfaces. So we are planning 4G and 5G connectivity as well for 200 series. And generally speaking, this is a very, very capable, very, very performant box, as you can see, for copper interfaces and then combo port for SFP slash copper console cable or console port as usual, and the power supply socket. This device is being positioned as the branch device, as the SD-WAN device, and as a device that will be used by managed service providers. So if you are working in any kind of scenario where that would be interesting, and the about 1.5 gigabits per second of the maximum performance with all of the inspections enabled is something that would be enough for your deployment type, which we believe will satisfy a lot of requirements. A lot of the services are running sub-rate gigabit Ethernet, which means like 10 megabits, 100 megabits, 200 megabit services, then for that kind of deployment, the 220 series is probably ideal. It can be managed through all of the different management systems we have, including security cloud control. It can also run either ASA or FTD. So as you probably already know, it is basically aligned with the rest of the product families we have in the hardware firewall portfolio. The most interesting part of the hardware design is not really the interfaces themselves. You can basically look at the box and immediately decide what kind of interfaces it has. Is the system on a chip that we are using in the 200 series. This is exactly the same chip scaled down that we are using in 1200, which allows us for power efficiency traffic processing, very high speed traffic processing, in acceleration of the crypto operations, as well as some additional dynamic programming that can happen for the hardware operations, which means that as we go, those devices will be more and more capable of accelerating some specific types of traffic. It's not really to the level of the dedicated FPGA that we have in the 3100 and 4200 and right now with 6100, but it's also very, very performant of real-world applications, including the decryption process, including the application inspection process, and including some additional differences in the sizes of the objects that are being tested. That was not really, benchmark test. It was just an interop test, but it's interesting if you see a picture from the live rack unit that was being under test, how those numbers completely differ. Now, in terms of your day-to-day lives as our partners, I would highly encourage you to increase the speed of talking to your customers, because we are slowly reaching a point where most of the legacy ASA and firepowers are already gone after the last day of support. And right now we are only waiting until the last 5500s that are going to reach the last day of support in August next year, and that will be it. The next releases or the next hardware that we are going to see in the table are already going to be the new boxes. But please work with your customers, because then we won't have those escalations coming in from customers that they want to refresh a box, but suddenly they no longer can buy licenses, they no longer can register any service, and the box is basically a risk until the migration completes for the new devices. So I would highly encourage you to actually work with your customers, and if needed, we are always happy to help. For the European partners, I'm based in Poland, Torsten is based in Germany, so we are basically in the same time zone as most of you. So I would highly recommend reaching out to us directly and ask for help if you need us on a call with the customer, for example, to convince them. And the way to do that, probably you already know that, but there is a Firestarter partner program that you can open partner-based requests to engage us directly, to reach out directly to the business unit. You don't even need to reach out to the local account team. You can reach out to us directly. There is a whole page that's called SecureCisco.com that is technical marketing engineer driven, and the content that is published there is a content that is published directly by our engineers. There is a bunch of different programs, including migration tool, including appid.cisco.com, which gives you view into all of the applications that we support as part of the Snort capabilities. There is also a bunch of different WebEx spaces that I would I highly recommend you to join. We are responding in English, but for those of you that talk in other languages, potentially we can switch to one-on-one, of course, discussions. And those discussions are always to the point, and we are trying to answer. There is a bunch of other folks from business unit present there as well. And of course, there is a there is a YouTube channel, right? So this is the latest that you can see on the YouTube channel. It's mostly focused on 7.7, AIOps, and the security cloud control. Very quickly, or within the next 2 weeks, you will see a flood of the YouTube videos coming in about 10.0 and about what is available in 10.0 from the product and feature perspective. So again, I would highly encourage you, if not subscribe to, so at least watch this space and try to see what is going on in our world and what kind of capabilities we are shipping, how you can, for example, do zero-touch provisioning across your boxes, depending on what is your specific area of interest and what is the interesting area of your current work. And with that, with 10 minutes left to spare, maybe there are some interesting questions that we can try to address. Anything, Torsten, or you did answer everything from the room?
I did my best.